This is Jim Williams with the Hurricane City Tropical Update for September 12th, 7:30 p.m. Here's the active tropical systems and invest map from the front page of Hurricane City, and we have three systems on the map that we're tracking. We have Invest 92L near the Greater Antilles near Hispaniola. The system is very poorly organized. There's about a 50% chance of development over the coming days. I'll get to a little bit of explanation in the model data in just a minute. We have Igor, which has went through a rapid intensification process today, and the system is now, the forecast calls for a Category 5 hurricane northeast of the northern Leeward Islands. And we have new tropical depression number 12 in the East Atlantic that should become Julia soon, and this is forecast to move off to the northwest. So it's pretty active. We're at near the height of the hurricane season, so this is not unusual. Let's go ahead and open up the HurTrack program and show you the animation on Igor. And here we see this system with the winds around 150 miles an hour while it's northeast of the northern Leeward Islands. It's going to pass about 497 miles northeast of San Juan, Puerto Rico, and 366 miles northeast of Antigua. So this is not going to be a threat for the northern Leeward Islands. The pressures are falling in the North Atlantic right now north of Igor, and this should begin to start making its turn to the west, northwest, and northwest, and will avoid the northern Leeward Islands. The big question remains, how close is this going to get to Bermuda? And if we continue on with the animation, it starts to move northwest, generally directly towards the island of Bermuda, and the indications are that this could become a threat to Bermuda in about 6 or 7 days from now. And I'll get to a little bit more in that. All right, let's go to our next image. Here's all the past hurricanes, named storms rather, that have been in the same exact position as Igor is in right now at this exact time of the year, between September 11th and September 13th. Three storms are on the map. 1968 Edna dissipated out here. Gert passed just east of Bermuda back in 1999, and Hurricane Helene in 2006 went well east of Bermuda and out to sea. So there's really no benchmark hurricanes that have been in the same exact position at this time of the year that we can reference for major impacts, especially on the United States. But that does not mean that that will happen with Igor. Now here are the models for Igor. Pretty tightly clustered. I guess there's a little bit of a spread going out about 5 days. But you can see out here that the southern outlier is the Canadian model. And this model on the latest runs has been shifting further and further west. In fact, on the latest run, I just checked, it has it going like this before making a potential turn, which it makes you think of Earl in this respect. And you know, the Canadian model was the first one to recognize that Earl could pass a lot closer to the Outer Banks than the other global models. So we're going to have to keep an eye on the Canadian here for trends. But again, what you notice here also with the models is there's a sharp turn to the northwest followed by a little bit back, a bend back to the west, northwest, or northwest, because what's going to happen is you're going to have the current trough that's out there right now is going to break the ridge down a little bit and allow for the northwest turn. Then another high pressure is going to build in temporarily off the eastern seaboard, and it will allow the system to move back toward the west-northwest. Then another trough is going to come off the coast and finally send it to the north. And the question is it going to get close to the United States, or is it going to get closer to Bermuda? That's still up in the air right now, but all indications are we could end up with a very powerful hurricane very near Bermuda in about 5 or 6 days. By the way, the Euro takes this pretty close, much closer to the Outer Banks than the other models do. The other models keep this closer to Bermuda, so we'll have to watch that Euro. It's a very good model, and it does indicate this is going to linger a little bit down here before making the turn. Here's the best performing model on our system, and let's zoom in on this because I know it's kind of hard to see. There is Bermuda right here, and we can see that the system passes just off to the east. This is the Aviation Ensemble model number 18. It's off by about 58 nautical miles. Now, all the models have performed very well on Hurricane Igor. Where they've had a little bit of a problem is with the intensity, and I'll show you that in just a minute. But the best performing model here, again, well east of Bermuda. Let's hope that that pans out, because when I show you the animation of this hurricane in just a minute, I'm going to show you what this thing is capable of doing if it affected land. And they're nice and pretty to look at when they're out in the open Atlantic, but when they're affecting your neighborhood, it's total devastation. But let's hope this AP-18 ensemble model works out for Bermuda. Now here is the ASCAT scatterometer winds from Invest 92L, which is down in the near Haiti at this hour, and you can see right in here there's basically no west winds at all near Hispaniola, and this is just from a little while ago. All east winds. In fact, the strongest winds are only about 15 to 20 miles an hour out of the northeast, just off the coast of Haiti. So there's really no well-organized circulation associated with 92L. Earlier, the GFDL wanted to turn this into a significant hurricane towards Belize, so it's backed off significantly. The models still pretty much take this generally west toward the Yucatan, but they're pretty much keeping this a weak system. I don't think any of them are making it into a hurricane. In fact, the Euro tries to turn it into a hurricane right near the Yucatan and into the southern Gulf of Mexico, but the European model has been very erratic on this as well. Here's our system out in the East Atlantic, very well developed. Curving, banding features out here, very well developed tropical depression. This will become Tropical Storm Julia, and the consensus is this is going to move northwest into the East Atlantic and not affect any land masses. We'll keep track of this, but right now it looks like it's not going to be a big concern. All right, let's take a look at the water vapor loop of the Atlantic Basin, and I'll kind of tell you what the models are indicating is going to happen with this. And I'll also talk a little bit about the intensity of Igor. First of all, let's talk about Igor, because that is the main game out in the Atlantic right now. And here it is right here. Very well-developed hurricane. The eye is centrally located, central dense overcast when it's directly in the center of the convection. And this is going to go ahead and continue to ramp up. The pressure's falling like a rock on this thing. And just to let you know what a hurricane like this is capable of causing, 13 to 18 foot storm surge, complete roof failure on most homes. In other words, the roof would either completely blow off or enough of the roof would blow off to where you'd have rain pouring into your house. Most areas up to 6 miles inland would need to be evacuated due to high surge flooding, and you could have areas that are lower than 10 feet above sea level that could be flooded by a hurricane like this. So this is not could be a very devastating hurricane for anybody that would have to deal with this. And luckily, let's hope that this doesn't have any effect on land, especially the Greater Antilles over here, where especially Haiti, they're dealing with the aftermath of the earthquake from January 12th. They are being affected by 92L right now, but just scattered showers, and I don't think this is going to develop into much of anything. It might have a chance over here when it gets in the Western Caribbean heading toward the Yucatan, but it looks like this is not going to be a threat for Haiti. But back to Igor out here. Again, this is forecast to become a Category 5, but what are the intensity models showing on this system? Well, they haven't really done that well on this, but going to tropicalatlantic.com, let's take a look at the graphics on this. And these are all of the intensity models listed here, and the best performer on the intensity models has been the LGEM model here. And when it's out near Bermuda, potentially in about 5 days right now, the LGEM is predicting winds of 111 knots. That's about 130 miles an hour. We're still talking a strong Category 3 hurricane here when it would be potentially near Bermuda. So this is going to remain a very intense hurricane. Now, some of the models indicate this could still be a Category 5 hurricane, which is the CMC model when it's at that time. But the CMC model is indicating this could pass between Bermuda and the U.S. So if it is that powerful, it'll be a good thing that it passes without hitting any land with that kind of wind speed. But let's just hope this doesn't affect any land at these speeds that are indicating here, because the intensity models are just keeping this as an extremely dangerous hurricane throughout the 5 to 6 day period. All right, back to the water vapor loop. These troughs are the savior for land masses from Hurricane Igor. Remember when Earl was out here, we had troughs set up, and Earl took a path when it went a little bit further west than everybody anticipated, but it finally made the turn and passed about 100 miles, give or take, near the Outer Banks, and then curved up and hit the Canadian Maritimes. But that's due to these troughs. Here's one here. Here's another one here. And this one right here is what's causing a weakness right now. And Igor should begin to turn to the west-northwest, passing well east of the northern Leeward Islands. Second trough is coming, and this is the one that's probably going to grab it. The question is, again, is how close does this come to Bermuda? Jim Leonard talked to him the other day, and he's indicating he might take a trip out to Bermuda if this trend continues for a forecast for landfall, even though it's a risk as a storm chaser to try to get on a tiny island and get the strongest winds of a major hurricane. It could easily go further west and split the uprights here and go out in the open Atlantic. Let's hope that's what happened, or like the AP-18 model says, going well east of Bermuda. But again, this system should remain weak. If anything, going to head toward the Yucatan. All eyes are on Igor right now. I'll be back with another update in a day or two on the situation. That's it for now. Thank you again for visiting Hurricane City.